Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about the entire crypto market. So sit back, relax, and before we fully jump on into this video, I do just want to ask if you guys could please leave a like on this video. It does help the channel grow immensely. And of course, I always do greatly appreciate it. Now, overall, yes, this is a live stream. I figured I would live stream the overall market update because right now with the current market structure, I do want to kind of do this live to give you guys this as fast as possible. So as we are talking about the current market structure, let me refresh, make sure everything is up to date. I have been addressing a few concerning factors within this market, specifically, revolving around Bitcoin, the dollar, indices, stuff like that. Excuse me. So let's just jump in and let's talk about a few things. So first off, on the 24-hour span, there is a few altcoins still green for the most part, but ultimately we are in a sea of red, and this is because of Bitcoin. Now, yesterday I did do a little bit of an update on Bitcoin and some warning factors ahead of today. That was basically the weekly candle close for Bitcoin. Now, what was that close and where did I want to see us actually above? Well, yesterday, I told you I wanted to see us back above the 50-day EMA, which is roughly at around 43K, and I wanted to see a close above that. Now, as I was recording yesterday, we were slightly peaking above it, hitting almost that 10-day EMA at about 43K exact. That is that yellow line, by the way, as you guys do see up here. Now, we couldn't hold that. It wasn't a sustainable move. So that told me a major warning sign that we were going to see a drop in price. Now, all while this was happening, I was also addressing the dollar. Yesterday, the dollar wasn't open, right? We didn't have live, price action on the dollar. But as you guys do see, we are still, hitting that 786, resistance zone. Doesn't look like we are seeing any signs of weakness yet on the dollar. So I am going to be watching this closely as I still have that, printed, overall analysis on the board on what I would want to see from the dollar. All while this is happening, right? Everything that is happening within this current market. And as we are watching the dollar have this massive, strength, we are also seeing major indices at a very weak point. These are still open currently. I could actually refresh this. You guys could see this. You guys do see the NASDAQ and also the Dow in a strong sell-off technical rating and the S&P 500 in a sell rating. Now, the overall change in points is pretty alarming in terms of the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. This is actually most likely going to result in the fear and greed index seeing some extreme fear. But I don't think that we should actually be, looking at it like that. I think that we should be looking at where we currently are in this market, right? We are still at, a higher low area, even going off of the recent low points at around 37.7K. I would say most likely we either see a bounce off of this support zone here at around roughly 39.3K, or at that nice support level going back to around the June 10th area, which was at currently 39.7K, which we are nearing right now. Now, will I say that that is a strong support zone from that time frame? No, but it is a strong support zone going back to the September lows, which was again at about 39.6K. Now, off of those September lows, you guys do see the major impulse that we went on to the all-time high that we currently are utilizing on this fib level. This is a significant area. And honestly, when we look at the Bitcoin overall chart on the macro view here, there's nothing to really be bearish about. I still see individuals asking me, do you really think that we're still in an alt season? 100%. I do think that we are still in a bull run. I think that this market structure still looks pretty good. And honestly, when we look at the Bitcoin chart, there's nothing that's telling me that this is fairly bearish. Do I think that this is bearish on the micro view, on the short term? 100%. But if we look at the RSI, we are nearing those points where we have bounced off of going back to September. This is also an area that we bounced off of during, again, February as well. This was like during like the February time frame. And this continued on that nice upward trend to 48K. So I do think that this major sell-off event is sort of a trapping point to have individuals panic, sell, and then, those whales will come in and scoop up cheap bids. Now, this will lead to a nice impulse if this structure does hold and if we do have that significant bounce off of 39.6K. If we don't, then I will get a little concerned. But for the most part, I do expect that to hold. And honestly, I do expect the dollar to reject off of the 786. We've seen peaks above. In fact, we could honestly go as high as 100.98 or either as high as the 102.997 high from March of 2020 before we go into that major bear market. But I'm not going to get too bearish until we do break out of that high and go to make new highs on the dollar. That's going to be a concerning factor. But until then, things still look ultimately pretty good. And honestly, even in terms of the altcoin market, right? So as everyone's getting a little bit bearish, check out the weekly view on the altcoin market, right? We're still holding that 50-day EMA at 1.048 trillion, almost 1.05. We are still holding this structure. We're still in a higher low. So things ultimately still look good in terms of altcoins. I actually have XRP open over here. XRP is having a nice little sell-off event. But look at the level that we're at. We're at about 70 cents. Okay? I told you, as long as we are holding the fundamental, support zone on the total 2, a lot of these altcoins won't see a massive sell-off event. Is this still down pretty high from the recent high? Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about this nice little, higher low, if you will, because it is a little bit, or I should say a lower high, comparing it to the February 7th move, we're still down about 22%. I mean, that's pretty significant. But, we are not buyers of these top candles. We wouldn't have been buying that. If anything, we bought the dip, so we're still a little bit, up from those, lows. But even if you did buy those highs, it's okay because, this structure is still telling us that we are still at major support zones. I do think, if anything, XRP will most likely come down to test those, weekly candles from the August timeframe, which will be at about 67 cents, still putting in a higher low on the chart. A lot of assets are similar in the structure, even XLM, right? I have been addressing XLM in terms of its fib levels for a while now. Again, fairly similar structure. We're not testing major support zones here, but we are at, the support just recently of January. But, can this go a little bit lower? Sure. But it still has a little bit of a higher low comparing it to the February drop. Hbar, very similar structure as well. Again, a lot of these altcoins are not, dropping massively. I mean, Hbar is, sort of going for that triple tap bottom currently, but it's still kind of holding the support zone. Going back to the August timeframe. So ultimately, altcoins aren't taking a crucial hit right now. I mean, some of them are down 20+%, which is, a significant percentage. But, for the most part, things aren't looking too bad until the total 2 does break the 50-day EMA, which is what I'm watching for. Once we do break that, that's going to be, a very significant thing. So again, I'm watching the current market very closely in terms of the dollar and in terms of the indices. I think that those are going to be the leading factors as we do march forward on in this month and also even in this week. This week is going to be the turntable event, right? Are we going to see indices break back into a strength zone, or are we going to see them continue downward a little bit? I have been addressing these 3 charts. Let me actually open them real quick and make sure that we could really kind of analyze these real quick for you guys. So first off, the Dow Jones, we'll start with the Dow Jones, we'll go to the NASDAQ, and then we will go to the S&P 500. I have been kind of watching these on the macro view, and the macro view is, sort of this, structure going back to the March of 2020 dropping points, which again is a fairly similar structure that we're kind of And I would say when we're looking at the macro view here, that is a structure that we should be going off of anyways, because it kind of gives us a little bit of a better picture on what we are really kind of doing on the Dow Jones. More so, look at that support zone on those recent weekly candles from March. You guys do see, the Dow Jones is still in a fairly strong area, especially if even if we go off of, again, that 50-day EMA at about 34.2K. We're still kind of coming down to test that. Honestly, this does not look bearish at all to me. Looks like we are actually putting in a little bit of a higher low on the Dow as well. The NASDAQ, I have this recent structure that I put into place. But again, even if we go off of the May or the March of 2020 dropping point, we could kind of still see that structure being put in place. Now, this is a little bit different than the Dow Jones, by the way. Similar because the 200-day or the 50 EMA, is actually being broken down here instead of it being a support zone. It actually looks like we are targeting that 702 fib level here as the support zone instead of, for an example, like the 50-day EMA. On the Dow Jones, as you guys do see, that 50-day EMA is basically the support zone here instead of a fib level. But for the NASDAQ, we actually see a fib level being the support zone. Which, by the way, the last time that we bounced off of this support zone, where we had that nice sell-off event, was back in May of 2021, where this actually went on that massive rally all the way to November. Which also during this time, I know that during May, we actually had a major sell-off event in crypto during this time. But ultimately, the markets kind of caught back up to each other, and we went on that nice rally until November. And by the way, this is like where Bitcoin kind of topped out for 2021. That's when we went on that massive bear market. It's like a micro bear market where Bitcoin was kind of sitting stable. Everybody thought it was over, which is like, I could kind of show you guys that. So here's that November topping point. Everybody thought it was over. Like, they thought that this was it. We were going to break 32K or 33K and go down to like 26K, which is, again, around like the 200-day EMA on like the weekly candle. I can kind of show you guys that real quick. There you guys have it. It's like around like 26K, like 26.5. Everybody thought it was over. They thought that this was a bear market. Honestly, it really, when you look at the leading factors here, it is around like the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, the S&P and stuff. Which, by the way, the S&P, again, very similar structure to the Dow. It is hitting some, it's at like around like the resistance zone of the 10-day EMA, but it's coming down to test that, ultimately 50-day EMA most likely. So again, very similar structure. These do not look too bad at all. I would be concerned if the Dow Jones did break the 50-day EMA, and also same with the S&P 500. But again, on the fib levels of these, we are still a while away from concerning factors, which that concerning factor would be breaking down below the 786. That would be something to really kind of watch for. But I do see on the macro view these three being fairly good. I actually have my topping points for the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ, and even in the S&P 500 labeled on the charts. They're actually up here. I've been addressing this and talking to you guys about it. But right now when we look at these three are not concerning at all. And when we look at Bitcoin as well, Bitcoin is also not, in a bearish sort of price action either. I mean, we do see here, if this pattern shown by, Bitcoin Fuel does continue to play out, now would be a horrible time to sell. And we actually look here, right? Bitcoin is following Justin Miami's sediment cycle perfectly. Now it is at the aversion stage up soon. And we actually do see here, in terms of the structure being printed out, we do see that anxiety sort of stage up here, that resistance point, followed by that aversion sort of area. And then the next point would be that breaking point, aka that returning confidence. Possibly around like the same similar all-time high, but a little bit lower, maybe at around like 67K, like 61 to 67K. If we do break out of that, I mean, if we go to new all-time highs, we'll definitely be, targeting 120 to 160K. We have to watch that closely, but I do think that we're in a very similar structure to this Justin Miami's, not Miami. I don't know why I said Miami before, but Miami's sediment cycle. But I do think that when we talk about the Bitcoin, structure, and when we look at the, market structure, I think things still look fairly good. I'm not too concerned at all. I've told you guys that I have been buying, Cspr. I think that, these dips shouldn't be, ignored. I think that when we look at these, everyone is, currently panicking. But realistically speaking, these are the times where you can really kind of capitalize on everyone's fear. And like I said, watch for that fear and greed index to update. I don't know what it is currently. We could actually kind of look at it. So right now, this updates in about 4 hours and 8 minutes. I honestly see this at extreme fear. This will most likely be seen extreme fear very soon. We are currently at about a 32 scale, which is fearful levels. I definitely see this being updated to extreme fear very soon, and I think that that is exactly why we need to make sure that we are not buying the green, we're buying the red, okay? Just to be sure, when we look at things like this, this is the idea that everyone in retail is panicking, they're fearful. That's when you should be greedy. When retail is greedy, that's when you should be fearful. And by the way, just so you guys know, real quick, check out the RSI on the weekly here. Every single time that we've had that, cascading factor where these did cross, we've seen some bearish, price sentiment, but I do see this actually bouncing here, similar to that September timeframe, going into that nice parabolic rally. So I do think that Bitcoin is still looking good. I think that the market is still looking good. So I hope that kind of gives you guys a little bit of a better picture. I figured I would do a live stream because, hey, I figured I would give you guys this all in a real-time basis. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video, the live stream. Thank you for everyone stopping by. I do greatly appreciate you all. If you guys did enjoy, definitely hit that like button, subscribe, and turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. As always, I hope that you all have a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are in this beautiful world. This has been Nick. Peace out, guys.